right, couple thoughts for EG1 for Jesus My Victory. This one starts with a part that's kind of up here around, we're in the key of B, kind of starts up here around this B triad. And what you're going to do is you got kind of two shapes that you mostly go back and forth between, and then you land on this triad. So the... and again, just my general thoughts about how I would play it or how I've been playing it. So the first is this shape here. You're kind of just strumming through all of these. And then, so your whichever finger you use, for me it's the middle finger, stays anchored there on the G string for these two shapes. Back to the first one. And then just that B triad that we talked about already. And then in terms of effects, I'm just doing largely, I mean, you want some amount of grit to it, so I've got a stage of drive on. Just no delay, just the light reverb here. And then a tremolo is really what makes the part work. I'll say that I didn't have a tremolo until recently, and so before that I was kind of using like a weird 16th note delay to kind of pull off the feel of that thing. But if you have a tremolo and you can lock it into the tempo of the song, or at least get somewhere close, that gives you more the vibe of the... which is kind of what you're going for that part. So that's both of the hooks. First verse, you don't play anything. The second verse, you kind of come down to kind of a pretty simple kind of two string kind of strummy thing. That's either around the B triad here or here. There's advantages to both. To some extent, it's up to your preference, where, like any part, kind of where you play it and where it sticks out with your pickups and your parts and all that stuff. But I kind of tend to default to playing it right here, this kind of strumming. That seems to be a pretty good timbre for that part. But you can also play it down here, and the advantage of that is the higher strings, the G and B, will stick out a little bit more, which may or may not be a good thing depending on your setup. And then later the song, I feel like you're going to want to be down here anyway, for the riff thing that happens later. So you could play it here too. No really right or wrong there necessarily. It's just whatever sounds good. So those are the options there. For that part, I'm middle position. I've got a much wetter reverb on, and it sounds like I have a quarter note. Is that right? Yeah. That sounded good to me, so I liked that. You probably don't need much delay, but quarter note or eighth note or whatever. A little bit of drive too helps. Or up here. You get the idea with that. The delay is subtle enough to where it probably doesn't matter a whole lot anyway. You don't even really need a delay right there. I just liked a quarter note there. I keep the same settings for chorus 1, which is making use of your open B string, which I apparently need to tune, and playing just kind of a 2-note riff moving around the neck there. idea with that. That stays in middle position also. It helps if you figure out, like I like to mute the last string with my ring finger here just so that you can kind of strum away starting at that D string and not have to worry about hitting that by accident, or staying you're confined to just those two strings. That lets you strum a little bit more easily. And then I have the same effects that I had before, so kind of like a stage one feeling drive. I left the quarter note on and that big reverb from verse 2, so you get the kind of nice. Up here on the 5 so that you're in position to jump back to that first riff again. Into verse 3, you are going to play kind of a riff part that starts down here around this B. So what you're doing there is starting on the D string. There's a couple muted notes first that really help the part kind of jump out a little bit. That's kind of what you're doing there, the D string and the G. So if you're muting at the beginning, this is the important part. If you ignore those parts, you just kind of want the... That's the part you really need to stick out as much as you can. And then you kind of come down to this deal right here. Like a 1 and a 5. And then you come play the first thing again. And then this again, a little busier. And then you kind of do a little bend here that follows the line of the vocal. And then you're playing for right when you get back into the chorus, you start playing these triads up here, which are like this. You can slide into it. That's kind of what you're doing. So again, right here. Effects wise for that part, I'm looking at a lot of gain. It looks like I left the quarter note there, which a little bit surprises me. You don't really need that. A lot of gain, a fair amount of reverb, not as much as before. Oh, nope, it's an 8th note. That makes a lot more sense. I see why I did what I did. So there with the whole part, you get the... And then you're back to... And then you're up to the... That gets out of that part. And then the next part, you're back to the... I'll leave those same effects where they are, and then you're playing the same open B string thing that you were playing before, only you're playing it with all the gain and on the bridge pickup, so you're nastier here. Same thing, that part ends up there on the 5 again, so that you can jump back to the bridge part, which is back to this tremolo riff kind of thing. Except that time, you're going to be picking around that shape, basically, the whole time. Again, around this B triad up here. I come back to the same settings I used for the hook and the turns with the tremolo in them. But for sake of showing it more easily, you're kind of picking around all of this. So you start here with and then you're picking to the... Oops, sorry. And then... Nope. So what I've liked to do is just leave my fingers here and then kind of move them around to be able to bar from here. And get back easily to the shape again. So you do that for a while, and then eventually you start picking kind of around this shape instead, which is this number. And you repeat that a couple different times. Again, that's pretty much the same effects as before. You've got the big tremolo, you've got a fair amount of gain on there, so you've got that's what gives you the... Same with the picking. That goes into this kind of riffy part that, again, without the effects, is here. It's kind of this deal. I'll show you that again. Little pull off there on the B string. And then you're kind of... This is another one where you can keep your fingers in place around the whole riff pretty much, and it can help with placement a little bit if you want to, kind of doing a... I do find it gets a little crowded for me mix-wise if I don't let go of these lower notes. And then you go... Didn't mean to hammer on that note, but that's the idea. The first time each riff goes... Then the second time it goes... You get the idea with that. And then at the end it just kind of goes to the... Just kind of strums those two. Again, if you have your tremolo and all the stuff on for that, then you get it sounding the... So you get that, and then the rest of the song kind of comes back in on kind of on this around this B shape down here. Again, it kind of after you got a down chorus, you kind of fade back in this kind of number here. Except then we're gonna slide chords around on the B and D strings or B and G strings instead. The idea there. At some point you got to hit either this or this and get this little riff here. So the same idea as forgive me, played in the wrong spot. So same idea, just down here and slightly different to get that big riff there, and then you're back to sliding the shapes again. Same as before, you can also slide those shapes around down here. But I think these are probably the better ones to use. For those parts, you're pretty much just on the same stuff that you had for like the second chorus, or that's how I would do it anyway, where you get the... that kind of thing out through the end of the song. And then for the ending part, you can kind of play around those triads here. Oh, not there. And you can end that way. So hopefully that helps to some extent. It's at least a take on how that works. So there you go.